The Jehovah's Witnesses are known for a lot of things, like door-to-door knocking and not celebrating holidays. However, in this video, I'm going to unpack with you 10 facts that you probably didn't know about the Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's talk about it. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. Today is an exciting video. We're going to talk about 10 very controversial facts about the Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's get into it. Now, there is no way we can talk about controversial things about the Jehovah's Witnesses and not mention that Charles Taze Russell, the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, was a Zionist. He held Zionist beliefs, was a staunch supporter of Zionism, believing that Jewish people would be restored to Palestine before Armageddon. Imagine that. A group of people taken from foreign land to go colonize another land. Imagine that. And he supported this. He worked closely with Jewish leaders and delivered lectures in synagogues, which is something modern Jehovah's Witnesses have no idea of. There is literally a book where Benjamin Netanyahu is quoted thanking Charles Taze Russell for Israel being what it is today, thanks to him. Yup, that's your leader. Watchtower later had to distance itself from these teachings, but the damage has already been done. And I think a few years ago, it wouldn't mean much that Charles Taze Russell was a Zionist because we probably didn't understand what Zionism meant. I, as someone who's a South African, knew that Israel was an apartheid state, but I just didn't understand the intricacies of it and how things actually got to that point. And over the last few years or months, with everything happening on that side of the world, we've been able to learn and just be informed about Israel and Zionism. And I would be horribly disgusted if I was affiliated to any religion that stood by what we're seeing right now. Now let's move on to the second president of the Jehovah's Witnesses, who was just as controversial. Joseph Rutherford in 1933 wrote a letter to Hitler trying to basically distance the Jehovah's Witnesses from the Jews because they too were also part of the group of people being exterminated. He called the Jehovah's Witnesses the true Christians, and the letter basically attempted to gain Nazi favor by attacking Jewish influence in politics and business. In a video I did a few weeks ago, we spoke about how Joseph Rutherford was a racist and also anti-Semitic, and this is where the anti-Semitic part came in. He really denounced Jewish people. Rutherford also admired how Hitler took a stance against the Catholic Church. This man was very problematic. I do not understand how people can affiliate themselves to a religion that has leaders like this. If there's one thing about God, is that God does not make mistakes, and God's word is constant, meaning that it is consistent. There is no change. How can these leaders flip-flop on rules? How can these leaders be such vile human beings and you think they are inspired by God? Really now? I do not want to associate myself with this religion. Leave me out of it. Thank you. There are so many reasons to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, like so many reasons. And if you needed another one, here we go. Leave the Jehovah's Witnesses and the pedophiles alone. Leave them alone. Like, remove yourself, remove your children from these dangerous men. This religion is literally covering up pedophilia, child SA. Guys, like, what more needs to happen for people to take notice? So many children have been harmed at the hands of men in this religion, and the leadership, the power structure protects them. The organization has a secret database of child abusers within the congregations, and they have never reported this to the authorities. In Australia, the Royal Commission has found over 1,000 cases of child abuse at the hands of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and none of this was reported to the police. And then when survivors try to speak up and they try to make people take notice of this in the congregation, because of when someone is accused of this, no one is notified, those people get shunned. They are named or labeled apostates. Like, what must happen if you have a child, a daughter, a son, even anyone who could be vulnerable at the hands of these men? Leave, 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 and do not associate yourself with such. This is beyond disgusting. The men you are seeing on the right here have been charged. These are just some of the thousands and thousands of men who are Jehovah's Witnesses who have harmed and hurt children. Some of them have hurt even multiple children for decades at that. This is beyond disgusting. Now, the most shocking and the most controversial point on this list has to be this. I cannot believe what I'm about to read for you guys, that Watchtower invests in war and tobacco companies. When I came across this fact, I was shocked. Not shocked that Watchtower actually invests its money. That's not news. If you've been keeping up with this organization, you would know that news articles have been reporting that something is happening in Europe. They are liquidating their money. They are hiring people in very high positions to help them manage their funds. Something is happening with their money, and they've even opened up investments accounts, 3 different accounts at that. So that is not news. What is news to me is that they invest in war and tobacco companies. A religion, guys. I honestly don't have the words. Despite condemning war, Watchtower has been linked to investments in companies like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct. It's a military contractor. They also benefited or profited from stocks in Philip Morris, a major tobacco company, despite banning it for its members. Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to smoke. Now, these investments were exposed in leaked financial reports. And guys, it is shocking. It's honestly shocking and so telling that this is not a real religion. Like, if you needed another reason to leave, here it is. It's not a real religion. They are literally investing in war and tobacco companies. Like, tobacco is one thing, even though it's destroying people's health, but war, I feel like a lot of us don't really know or understand or even comprehend the idea of war and what actually happens when someone goes through war and just everything that transpires until recent times, where we've been more exposed to how governments are using war to basically further their agendas, like Palestine, Congo, Sudan. Like, it's crazy. And then to see a religion is funding that, a religion is literally funding that, and you still think God is somewhere here? Really? God is somewhere here. A religion that not only protects pedophiles, but also funds wars and tobacco companies? Really, guys? Really? Like, what is it honestly going to take? That's why I don't feel anything about the content that I make, or when I encounter Jehovah's Witnesses and they look at me some type of way. You are literally in a cult that is funding a war, that is literally funding tobacco companies, that is harming children. Get out of here. The Jehovah's Witnesses are a billion-dollar real estate empire. By now, we've all gathered that this religion is mostly about the money. And we can see this by how much money they've already acquired. Watchtower has sold over $1.5 billion in Brooklyn real estate by moving their headquarters to Warwick, New York. And this was just for tax exemptions or just to be in a more tax-friendly location. Local congregations must fund Kingdom Hall's construction. I know this personally because my parents paid for our Kingdom Hall. And the sad part is Watchtower legally owns all of its properties, meaning that once the Kingdom Hall is sold, all of the profits go to the headquarters. But let's not forget that members also contribute free labor to these projects. They are not paid, yet they have no ownership or rights over these properties. Yet they've put in their money, their labor, their sweat, their tears, everything. And what do they get in return? Nothing. While these men who hold power have built $1 billion real estate empire that they get to enjoy, live in luxury, fly first class, have private chefs, drivers, just the life of luxury that you can't even comprehend. These men get to do this while also having power over millions and millions of people. Now, one thing about my people is you guys will do your research, and I love you all so much for that, because the Jehovah's Witnesses used to be part of the United Nations. They have gone out of their way so many times to talk trash about the United Nations. Like, if you have read their publications, you know how they feel about the United Nations. They have multiple times in their publications stated that the United Nations is the beast of the revelation. Yet Watchtower was part of this organization from 1992 until 2001. After being exposed, Watchtower quietly withdrew without explaining why they were ever affiliated to the United Nations. This document on your screen is literally a letter from the United Nations saying that, hey, you guys have been inquiring lately if the Jehovah's Witnesses used to be part of the United Nations, and yeah, they were. I will have it linked down in the description box below where you guys can read it for yourself. But yes, they were part of the beast. Now, if there's one thing we have to talk about, is the failed end of world predictions from Watchtower. Like, why do they do this to themselves? Someone even left a comment in one of my previous videos saying, a witness who would later become a ministerial servant told me that Armageddon would occur before I could graduate high school. I will be 63 next month. Like, why do they do this to themselves? The Jehovah's Witnesses have predicted the end of the world so many times, 1914, 1925, and 1975, each time claiming it was God's plan. And then when the predictions would fail, like they always do, they would reword it in their past publications. There was like no definite dates or definite clarity or certainty to these predictions. Like, why would you do this? Despite all of these errors, they still demand blind faith from their members and for them to believe their prophecies. Who is still buying into all of this? Now, this one is hard for me to talk about because I have also lost a family member who refused a blood transfusion, and they were young, they were actually a minor, and it was so painful to think that this person could have survived, but this religion basically led them to their death. The Jehovah's Witnesses have a strict policy of prohibiting their members from accepting blood transfusions, even in life-threatening situations. Many children and adults have died refusing transfusions for treatable conditions, and all of this is based off of a misinterpretation of a biblical text. And you can argue this as much as you want, but the fact is they still contradict themselves by allowing members to accept a fraction of blood. Like, what even is that? From 1967 to 1980, Jehovah's Witnesses have banned organ transplants as well, calling them cannibalism. And then in 1980, the rule was quietly reversed, but no apologies were ever made. So many people died based off of this misinterpretation of a biblical text. Yet people are now allowed to accept fractions of blood. What is that? Like, this religion is bizarre, it's crazy, and people might wonder, then why this rule? This is all for power. If someone can control who you spend your time with, how you spend your resources, what you consume content-wise, and even what you accept to your body medically, it's all about control. When they control you to this point, they can make you do anything, even die. And there will always be someone trying to argue that no, Watchtower does not discourage its members from pursuing a higher education, when in the 60s it literally told members to avoid a higher education. College was labeled as satanic to discourage members from pursuing careers that could have helped members better their lives, better their living conditions. Mind you, these leaders saying all of this are living very comfortably, living very well. This has led to so many Jehovah's Witnesses struggling financially. While now, Watchtower does allow some members to pursue a higher education, it's quite evident that a person cannot really succeed in life or just live a normal, average life without some form of education to just have a job that can pay you a living wage. So fine, it allows members to pursue some form of education, but still discouraging it at the same time. This religion is a weird one. Honestly, a very, very, very weird one. And there's some people actually, like lawyers, who have been actually funded by Watchtower to go and study so that they can come back and work for Watchtower. So it's very interesting how some form of education is important and valuable for Watchtower when it's to their own benefit, but when it's for members, why are you trying to gather your riches here on earth when you should be gathering them in heaven while they are enjoying the riches on earth? You need to ask yourself some critical questions here. Lastly on the list, we have shunning and how shunning destroys families. This is also something very controversial, not shocking, but controversial because the Jehovah's Witnesses are known for this. But I really want to paint a picture for those who might not have a true grasp of just what shunning truly entails. Let's remember that the Jehovah's Witnesses is a very tight-knit community, very small and shrouded in secrecy. Then all of your friends, all your family members are also part of this religion. Some people have not pursued a higher education. They probably work for someone who is a Jehovah's Witness, or they are a pioneer or a ministerial servant, just a role that really immerses you even more into this religion. And for those people who don't again understand, this religion controls everything. People don't even accept life-saving medical services due to this religion. So the hold it has on you runs very, very deep. The programming is on another level. Now you start questioning the rules. You start having doubts. And then something happens called disfellowshipping, a practice where you are cut off from members of the religion because you disagree with the religion's teachings. Even your own family members must now ignore you because you have been disfellowshipped. Again, this can happen because you have doubts, you have questions, or you're just speaking up about child abuse. Yes, you can even be removed for that. Many Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have experienced depression, homelessness, and suicide due to shunning. It is such a dangerous practice that is definitely not rooted in love. I need to highlight that. And this just makes it one of the most controversial things that the Jehovah's Witnesses do, because when it happens, guys, it's horrible. I also had a family member who got shunned, and I don't want to speak much on them, but I can just tell you that it's horrible and it affects you as a whole family. It is such a toxic and dangerous practice. There are so many people who have lost their lives due to this practice. This religion is so dangerous, guys. In conclusion, the Jehovah's Witnesses are a very dangerous, high control religion. Some even categorize this as a cult. These facts that I've just shared with you are just one of a few. They are not everything controversial about this religion. There's so much more. Please tread carefully if you are affiliated to Jehovah's Witnesses. And if you are part of this religion, leave while you still can. Because in the next coming months and years, as they keep losing members, they're going to become more and more desperate. And I don't even know what they're going to do. Imagine an organization, a religious one at that, funding wars. Yeah, they're going to be very, very desperate. So I would tell people, leave while you still can. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.